Hello, welcome to my channel Hustle and Slow, where I talk all about making money from home, building multiple streams of income, and reselling online. Today I want to talk about my experience with the Whatnot app. So if you don't know what Whatnot is, it's been getting kind of popular and people either love it or they hate it. I personally love it. So what it is basically live auctions on video. So it's like eBay but with video and really quick. So you don't have like days to bid on something. You have like 15 seconds to a minute to bid on something. So it's something where if you can build an audience that will come to your shows, you can sell a good amount of inventory doing that and make some good money doing that. There are a lot of resellers making a lot of money on Whatnot, and they're just flipping items really quickly because they're able to just sell it really fast on this app instead of listing it and waiting for the right buyer to come along. So today I want to talk a little bit about what Whatnot is all about and my personal experience selling on Whatnot for the last couple of weeks. So like I said, Whatnot is live auctions. So you use your phone or your computer or whatever to stream live, and you show the item, and at the bottom of the screen people can click a button to bid. They have to set up their payment ahead of time and they can bid live. And there's a chat that people can chat in, and it's a really fun way to shop, and it's a really fun way to sell also. That being said, if you have not tried Whatnot yet, go ahead and use the link I have down below. That is my referral link, and we will each get a $10 credit to shop on Whatnot. So you can go ahead and try it as a buyer before you decide to sell, or you can just buy on there, because I know some people are not into selling things live or being on live video. And I do have some information about how to do it without showing your face if that's not something you're into. So keep watching, and that will talk about that at the end, where I kind of share some of my tips. So exactly how does Whatnot work? So as a buyer, you show up to these sales, you get a notification, or you scroll through the app and find a sale that looks interesting to you. You click on it, you go in, you see what items that they're selling. They will show you the item in the screen, and they will usually just like show it on the screen, and you can click the button to bid. You will have your information preloaded. So every time you purchase an item, it will charge your card for the item, for shipping, and it will just do it automatically through the card that you have on the app. As a seller, you schedule a show, you preload items. Most sellers preload their items into a store on Whatnot. So each show has a screen, and there's like a little icon of a storefront icon, and you can click on that, and people who have preloaded their shows, there is information about each item, and some people will include a picture, some people won't. Some people won't even preload the actual items, and they'll just say item number 1, item number 2, and they will show you on the screen live. That way they're saving time and they don't have to preload items, but I personally like to preload my items so that people can see what is coming up. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, but basically you preload your items and then you go live, and every item, and you go down the line of all of your items and you pin them and you start the auction and you show people your items and people bid on them, and then at the end you ship them all out. So that's like a really simplified version of it, but that's basically how it works as a seller. All right, so what is my experience selling on Whatnot? So I've had a total of 6 shows. One of them was a while ago, a couple months ago, and then I had to take a break because my son was in the NICU, and I had 5 shows in the last couple of weeks, and here are my total results. So I had 5 shows, I sold a total of 104 items, and I made a total of $344 in sales. So you can see that I'm not selling things for a lot of money. If I look at the fees, which is 8% plus a 2.9% transaction fee, plus 30 cents per transaction, and each item is a transaction because they're winning an item and paying for each item individually. Shipping does get combined within the show, but each item gets charged individually. So that's 30 cents times 104 items. So after all of the fees, I made $275.30. So that's about $264 per item, and that doesn't even take into account my cost of goods, which is really low. Usually it's about 50 cents to $1 is really high. So maybe 50 cents to 75 cents on average. So my cost of goods is really low because I shop at the bins and I pay per pound, and I don't pay a lot of money for my inventory. But as you can see, that's not a lot of money. I do want to say, don't let that scare you away. Watch the rest of the video, because I'm not letting that scare me away either, because it takes time to build up an audience on Whatnot. But now I'm going to go over to the computer and show you all of my shows so you can see how all of them went. So my first show was on June 25th, and I sold 18 items, and my total sales was $45. My next sale wasn't until over a month later. I sold 16 items, and I called this my office clear out sale. Everything started at $2. I sold 16 items total and my sales were $38. Next, I did an all swim new with tag sale from a Target lot I had, or a Target liquidation I did. And I was just trying to get rid of all the swimwear, and it was all separates, like bikini tops and bottoms, but not matching sets. So I did all new with tags, $3 each. And I ended up only selling 11 items out of, I think, 50. And my total sold was $31. I did another sale less than a week later. And this was my best sale so far. It was my Sunday morning steals sale, and it was modern and vintage thrift finds. I had almost 100 items in that sale. I think I had like 89 items in that sale. I ended up selling 35 of them. So my total sales was $147. Most of them still sold around $2 to $5. But there was one item which was a gun sax dress that sold for $31. So that was my best sale so far in this whole experience. My next sale, 2 days later, was a $2 sudden death sale. And sudden death is where, so how it usually works on Whatnot is when someone places a bid, it adds 10 seconds to the timer so other people can bid, so that you can't like snipe at the end really. But sudden death is where it's, once the timer's out, it's out. So I was just doing 15 seconds sudden death, and when that 15 seconds was up, the item was gone. So people were kind of bidding all at the end to try and win the item. So I did sell 34 items during that sale for a total of $77. And then today I just did a sale, and it was my worst sale ever. And I do have some insight about that. But I only sold I only sold 2 items. 2 of them were giveaway items. So it includes anything that you give away in the totals. So these are inflated by like 2 or 3 because I do give away 2 or 3 things each show. So it says I had a total of 4 items, so I really only sold 2 items to one of my regular buyers who I really appreciate. But I didn't have a lot of people at the show, and I think it's because there were so many other shows with really popular sellers going on. So don't let the fact that I'm on YouTube fool you. I am not like a popular seller. I'm not popular in the reseller community. So it is taking me some time to build up my audience, and if someone popular is on and who is more charismatic and entertaining, they're gonna go over there. So I think I had a max of like 12 people in my show. Usually I have between 10 and 20, and they kind of stick around, but it was generally under 10 people in my show. So it was a bad time to have a show apparently, and that is something that I learned, to just not have a show at the same time as other people. So to just kind of pay attention, or not as other people, because there's always gonna be other shows going on, but if there's several other popular sellers that usually have a lot of clothing buyers at their shows, maybe don't have a show during that time. So I need to pay more attention to that. And I will just talk about it again in a second, but those are all of my shows that I've had so far. So my experience is that as a beginner, you really have to be willing to keep going. I don't know that I'm going to be successful on Whatnot, but I have a feeling that if I keep showing up, I will continue to get those repeat buyers and get a reputation as someone who sells items for good deals. So every show that I have people that come back and buy from me again, and then I just kind of start to gain buyers that way. So if every show you have, you gain one more person that really loves your stuff and comes to your shows. The more shows you have, the more people that are going to come back. So I've only had 6 shows. I can't really say that it's not a success. Luckily, my cost of goods is really low, so it's not a big deal that I'm selling things really cheap. And we are actually moving soon, which I haven't really talked about, which I'll talk about again later. We are moving soon, so I'm trying to clear a lot of stuff out because I don't want to bring all this inventory with me. So it's a really good time for me to experiment and clear items. All right, so how am I going to move forward with Whatnot? First, I want to say I am not giving up on Whatnot. As you can see, I'm basically breaking even after my efforts and everything else, but I'm not giving up. I'm going to stick it out for at least a couple of months to see if I can build an audience on there. So the first thing I'm going to do is keep showing up so I can build my audience. 2 or 3 shows a week is the goal. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that once we move, but I will try for 2 to 3 shows a week, at least once a week. But 2 to 3 is the goal. And because I shop at the bins and I don't generally shop too much at regular thrift stores, my goal is to sell out my shows, or mostly sell out my shows at $5 to $10 an item, and that is a great profit for me if my cost of goods is under $1. So basically, look at it this way. If I buy 50 items at the bins and I paid $25 for them, so 50 cents each, and 3 days later I sell all of them at a Whatnot show because I built my audience and everybody knows what to expect, and my items are relatively cheap, so people come and buy my stuff. And I sell all 50 of those items at $5. That doesn't sound like a lot of money per item. It's not. Maybe I could sell them for $10 or $15 on eBay, but it would take a lot more effort. If I can sell them in a 1 or 1.5 hour show at $5 each, that's $250 after fees and everything and cost of goods. I'm still making at least $150. I haven't done all the math, but I'm making at least $150 for the time I spent sourcing, the time I spent loading, and the time I spent on the show. So maybe like 3 or 4 hours. And I can just flip things quicker, get my money reinvested, and make more money again at the next show. So if I can get to the point where I'm selling things for $5 or $10 on average, that is a great profit for me. It's a quick flip, and I don't care if people are sourcing my shows and they're able to buy things for $5 and then resell them for $20. That's fine with me. I just don't have the time to list hundreds of items. If I can get to the point where I have lots of repeat buyers and I'm selling almost everything every single time I have a show, then that's a great way to make money really quickly, provide people with some deals, and move items quickly. So I'm really excited for the potential with Whatnot if I can get to that point, because that is the main way I will be reselling if that's the case. I am still sending items to eBliss, which is my fulfillment company, where I send them my items and I have stuff listed on eBay, Poshmark, and Mercari, and they ship it out for me so that I don't have to store anything. But because that does add some overhead cost, I don't want to send things that are really going to sell for less than like $25 or $30. So I'm only sending them maybe like 20 or 30 items a month. And the cool thing about that is stuff kind of sells and they ship it out for me. I don't have to do anything once I have it listed and shipped to them. So that's a good side hustle for me. But if I can turn Whatnot into a side hustle where I can just quickly buy items and quickly flip them, then that's an even better situation for me. So I'm hoping that I can make this work. Like I said, I've only done 6 shows. My last show was the worst show because I only sold 2 items. It is a little bit awkward when you're not selling items and people are kind of coming and going and there's not a lot of chat going on, but you just kind of get used to it, and I don't mind it. I'm not insulted by it if people don't want my stuff. Maybe the right buyer hasn't come along. I've had several items where I've had it in a show 3 times and it didn't sell until the 3rd time, and it actually sold for a little bit more because I had the pricing different. So it really just depends on who is in your show. So now I'm going to kind of go over the pros or cons, or what I like and don't like about Whatnot, because there are really both. There are some big pros and there really are some big cons as well, which I will talk about. So here are the things that I like about Whatnot. I love that they send a notification to your followers. So unless you have your notifications off, you will get a notification when someone that you follow starts a show. So I get notifications all day for Whatnot. I ignore most of them because I can't just sit in a show all day, but it's a nice thing to know that your followers are getting a notification when you go live and you start a show. So people start to trickle in after that because they got a notification. So that's a great thing. So you're not just scheduling shows and then hoping people remember. They're actually getting a notification, which is great. I also really like the community. When you get into some of the more popular shows or some of the bigger shows with more people in it, there's really a lot of chat going on. There's a lot of supportive comments. And it's really fun to just kind of have like people to chat with. Reselling isn't the most social occupation or business. So having somewhere to kind of talk to people is really fun. And you can shop while you do it. So I really do like the community. They're all really supportive. They all really support each other, and I love being part of that. I like that it's a more interactive way of selling. It's not just me taking pictures and listing it on eBay and never interacting with the people that are potentially buying it. I'm actually talking to the camera, and the people that are buying it are actually listening to me. I'm able to show flaws. I'm able to talk about the item, kind of show you the textures and the different things about it. So it's a really fun interactive way to sell something, because you can more easily show what the item is like versus buyers going off of just pictures. Another thing is, because it's all live, you can get feedback instantly. I've asked questions before, like, do you like these types of items? Or what time show is best for you? Or should I buy more of a certain type of item? Stuff like that. So you can ask questions and get feedback from your audience instantly, which is super important as a business. Polling your audience and knowing your audience really well is really important to any business, so that you can tailor your items and the way you sell things to your audience and increase your sales and just make it so it's easier for them to buy stuff that they want to buy, etc. I really love that you can sell a lot at once. Selling 1 or 2 items a day is great on eBay or Poshmark as a side hustle, but I love the fact that I can list 50 items and then like 34 of them sell, and I can get all 34 out at once. It's like a really satisfying way to feel that efficient, to be able to sell things so quickly. So I love that about it. I love that I can just move inventory quickly and I don't have to sit on it for a long time. And lastly, I like on the actual platform itself, I like that I can copy items over to another sale. So like today I had I only had like 29 items in the sale. It was one of my smaller sales. I sold 2 of them, so there are still 27 items that I haven't sold that I still have and I want to put in the next show. Rather than having to put them in the next show, I'm able to just copy them over. So I'm constantly just copying things over so that I can sell them in the next show, because there might be the right buyer, or someone who came to the last show might be like, oh, I did kind of want that. So it's nice to be able to copy things over from previous shows and fill your show that way, so that once you have items, like in my closet, I have items with numbers, and I can just go through and see what I have left and copy those all over to the next show and already have a show preloaded, and then I can always add more new inventory. So I really like that about it, that I don't have to just like redo the work every time, that I can just clone items. And now here are the things that I don't like. There's not a ton of things I don't like, but the things that I don't like are pretty significant. The first thing I don't like is the shipping. So the way it works is within a show, if you bid on something, you pay the initial shipping amount, which is going to be higher. And then for items after that, you're going to pay a lower shipping fee because it's combining your shipping, even though you're paying for each transaction individually. So let's say you buy a shirt and the shipping is $5, and then you want to buy another shirt. At the bottom, it'll show you what your shipping fee is for additional items based on weight. So maybe that additional shirt is $2.50. So you'll be charged for each one separately, but it is combining your shipping in the sense that it's giving you cheaper shipping on the following items. But what I don't like about it is that they don't calculate shipping by location. So for example, I have a friend who bought some stuff from me recently. She bought like 10 items, and she only lives 1 state away. So it would have been like probably $10 to ship the items to her, but they charged her over $20 in shipping. Because they're charging the maximum amount for that weight. So if I was sending to someone in New York, it totally would make sense. Because I'm in Oregon and they're across the country, and it would cost more money to ship to them. But because she was closer, she paid money as if she lived far away. So I wish that Whatnot would change their shipping so that it makes more sense financially. She was hoping that I got to keep the excess shipping, and I don't. As far as I know, Whatnot keeps all that money. So if they could change it so that it not only calculates additional shipping fees by weight, but also by location, so that our buyers aren't paying more than they need to in shipping, then that would be amazing, because I know that does deter a lot of people. In fact, I did do a poll to see if either the separate transactions or the shipping deter people, and this is what people said. So a lot of people are turned off by those shipping fees. A lot of times it's worth it because you're buying things for really cheap, but it's still a little bit annoying that Whatnot is pocketing so much in shipping. So I wish that they would fix that, and maybe they will. Another thing about shipping that I don't like is that there's no super cheap shipping option. The cheapest shipping option for like an initial purchase or initial item is $4. So even if it's a gift card and it's like half an ounce, $4 is the least that you will pay for it. And we know that it doesn't cost $4 to ship. I believe it's because they're using first class package rates for items under $1, and package rates are higher. So it'd be nice if they had like a cheaper option for like gift cards and cards and stuff like that that are small and don't need to be a package, and it would be like $2. I just think that Whatnot needs to work on their shipping. So like Poshmark has a flat shipping fee of like 7 something, up to £5. So you would think that Whatnot would be able to negotiate something similar. I honestly don't know how Poshmark got that deal, because that's really cheap for £5. I know most people's packages are not £5, so maybe it eventually evens out in the end, but if they can negotiate something like that, or do something like Mercari and eBay where they do it based on weight and location, and it's just, I don't know, their shipping just needs a little bit of work. The other thing I don't like is the individual transactions. Like I said, each item that you purchase will be an individual transaction. So if you buy 10 items, you're going to have 10 different transactions on your bank statement or your credit card statement. That's not usually a huge deal. It is a little bit annoying to have all those transactions, but usually it's not a big deal unless your bank flags those and declines future purchases because it looks weird that you're buying so many things. So that has happened to some people. It doesn't happen a lot, I don't think, but it is something to look out for. But unlike with the shipping, I don't see another way around this, because they need to be charging people individually for each item that they purchase. Because otherwise, if they waited till the end and it declined, then that seller has all these items that sold that weren't paid for. So I do think that that's really the only way to do it. So it's unfortunate that it's that way, but it's not really something that I can think of a solution for. It's just annoying, honestly. Those are really the only 2 cons that I can think of to selling on Whatnot. Obviously, things like if you're selling live, not everybody can go to your shows. That's kind of a con, but it's just the way the platform works, so it's not really their fault. That's just how it works. So I wouldn't really consider that a con. So there are some downsides and positives to selling on Whatnot, but hopefully those things that I like and things that I don't like kind of give you a little bit of insight on how it works and what's good and what's bad about selling on Whatnot. So here are some things that you need to know if you're thinking about selling on Whatnot. The first thing is that it takes time to get approved. It took probably 3 or 4 weeks for me to get approved as a seller. I do know some people got approved within like a day or two, but it took weeks for me, and I know it's taking weeks for other people. So once you apply to be a seller, it can take weeks. You also need to know the fees, which is basically 8% for Whatnot plus a 2.9% transaction fee, and then also 30 cents per transaction, not per order. So if someone buys 5 items from 5 different individual auctions within your show, that's 5 times 30 cents. So it's not just 30 cents for the order, it's 30 cents per transaction. So that's something to keep in mind if you're someone that's going to try and unload things for like $1. You're going to get charged the 8%, the 2.9%, but the 30% is really what's going to kill you on every individual item. Of course, you need to know the shipping rates. It's not really something that you need to take care of as a seller, but it's always good to know what the shipping is going to be like. So I will link below with the page that shows the shipping initial amounts and also the add-on amounts, so that you just have an idea. And you also just need to know that a lot of times you're going to sell items for a lot cheaper than you would if you were listing items on like eBay or Poshmark. There are sellers that are really popular and sometimes sell things for way more just because they're really popular and their buyers are really good buyers, and like they can hype the item up and get people bidding. But I'm going to say like 99% of the people that sell on Whatnot, in the clothing category at least, are selling items for a lot cheaper than they would if they were listing the item. But you have to consider what works best for you. For me, I'd rather sell it for cheaper, really quick. I don't have to take a bunch of pictures, create a listing, and store the item. I am fine with selling something for $5 instead of $15 if I can just quickly show the item on screen and ship it out. So that's worth it to me. So now, like I said, I'm relatively new. I've only had like 6 shows, but here are some of my best tips for new sellers that I kind of got from my personal experience. The first thing I want to say is that you don't have to be on camera if you don't want to. You can't see it, but behind me I have a hook on the wall. You can just stay out of frame and hang an item on a hook and do it that way. I do think that sellers that show their face and interact are going to do a lot better than those who just put an item on a hook, because it's less interactive and it's a little boring. But it's definitely possible. Or I have seen some people who sell like little items, like little trinkets or pins. They will just put the camera or their phone so it's facing a table, and they would just have their hands in the shot while they show the item. So there are definitely ways to sell on Whatnot without showing your face. There are a lot of successful sellers that do it, so don't think that you have to get on camera and talk. My next tip is that if you're energetic and charismatic, you're gonna have a lot more people at your shows and probably be more successful, because people will stick around and not jump from show to show because you're entertaining and energetic and people want to watch you. That being said, I'm not that way. I wish I was. I wish I was one of those people that people were just like drawn to, but I'm not that way. I'm pretty quiet, and when I'm live, it's hard for me to think of small talk and things to say, so I'm just not super entertaining. But that doesn't mean you can't be successful if you're not a charismatic, energetic, entertaining person. If you have good inventory and good prices and you're friendly, you're still gonna make sales. You might not be as popular as the popular sellers on Whatnot, but you're still gonna make sales and you're still gonna grow your audience, even if it's at a slower pace and a smaller audience. So don't be discouraged if you're not that type of personality, because you can still do well on Whatnot as long as you stick to it and you're selling good stuff. I already kind of mentioned this, but I wanted to mention it again. It's important to realize that you're going to be charged 30 cents per transaction on top of the percentage. So each item that you sell is going to be a 30-cent fee plus the 11.9% total between the 8% for Whatnot and the 2.9% payment processing fee. So that's really something to keep in mind when you're starting auctions really low. Another tip is to be part of the community. I've gained a lot of sellers just by going to other shows and talking to people. So it's a good idea to go to those really popular shows where there's like 100+ people and genuinely just interact and talk to people in those shows. Sometimes I'll do it while I'm feeding my baby, or at night when I'm laying in bed and I don't have a lot of other stuff to do. I'll go to other people's shows. Even if I'm not interested in shopping, I like to see what other people are selling, and I like to interact with the community. So being part of the community is a really great way to get followers and network and just show support. And so I really recommend that as a way to grow on Whatnot as well. Obviously be genuine. Don't just go in there and like drop your show information and stuff like that. That's not great. But just showing up and just being part of the community is a really good way to grow followers. I know of several sellers that were just really involved in the community and never had any shows. They weren't selling. And then once they did start selling, they had a really great audience built already because people knew who they were, because they show up for people and they're supportive and they're positive and they're just being part of the community. So that's a really good way to grow your audience as well. I did want to note for shipping. Shipping's pretty easy on Whatnot. It just shows you a screen of all of your orders and you can print labels for each order. When you print the labels, it will have it so that it's on a label, a 4x6 shipping label. And it will also print your packing slip like that, which I don't like because I don't like wasting labels. They're more expensive than regular paper. But as a tip, if you generate all of your labels and then click the email all labels button on the shipping page, it will email it to you and you can print all of your packing slips on regular paper instead of the label paper. I don't see a lot of people mentioning this, so this is something that I figured out because I don't like using the label paper for my packing slips. I think it's silly to use a label for just like something that you could just use a sheet of paper for. So there's a tip for you if you want to be able to print your packing slips on a sheet of paper. It's also a really good tip because I like to print all my packing slips first and gather everything and get all the orders prepared, and then I'll print out all my labels and do it that way. If you do it the other way, you generally print label, packing sheet, so it prints them all at one time. So that's just a different way to do it, and it's just a little bit more efficient for me and saves me money on labels. So that's everything I have to say about my Whatnot experience. I feel like this video is going to be a little bit longer, but I am having so much fun on Whatnot. If you want to go ahead and follow me on there or sign up for Whatnot to shop and get a $10 credit, make sure you use the link in the description below and hopefully come to some of my shows and buy some items. I start everything super cheap. Usually my items start between $2 to $5, and with thrift store prices the way they are, I know a lot of people, a lot of other resellers are on there sourcing my shows because it's cheaper than going to the thrift store and paying $10 for things. So it's a good way to buy stuff for yourself or even to source for items to resell if you're someone that is reselling on eBay and Poshmark or Mercari or wherever you're selling. So definitely sign up below and make sure you follow me on Whatnot. I'm just Hustle and Slow on there as well, and I would love to see you there. Let me know that you found me on YouTube. If you have any questions about Whatnot, drop them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them, and maybe I'll do like a Q&A style or tutorial style Whatnot video in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.